So the last time I did this sermon at 9 a.m., we had the Shining Light Awards at 11:15. So I hope that many of you haven't heard the sermon before. If you have, I can't remember what I preach from week to week, so it should still be new material. This one is dedicated to Ken Apfel and Caroline Hadley. Thank you for your generosity. We had great conversation in their home, and I enjoyed it immensely. They shared with me a farewell column by David Brooks from the New York Times entitled "Time to Say Goodbye." Brooks is a well-known writer and respected by many. I read his articles or read his articles regularly. And this sort of was his closing thought about the state of our nation. He's moving on to the Atlantic magazine that will give him more freedoms to do what he wants to do, really to engage in what he calls his moral philosophy. I wish him well. And coincidentally, I've been reading Brooks's latest book, How to Know a Person, where he goes deeper into many of the same concerns raised in his final article. And then because the universe has a sense of humor, there are these, synchronicities that happen. I've also been reading up on a guy named Alfred Adler and his Adlerian psychology from the early 1900s. And I will go more into this. It will make a most interesting sermon or sermon series at some point. But then I realized, thinking about Unitarian Universalism, Brooks and Adler, that there are these three streams circling the same truth, that something is wrong, not just out there, but in here, in the heart. And Brooks says that over the course of his career, America has become more divided, more distrustful, more cynical. He says we've lost our faith, not just faith in God, but faith in each other, faith in institutions, faith in the future. And you can feel it. You turn on the news, you doom scroll, you're on your phone. You sit at the dinner table, if you still do that, and politics comes up. You can feel it. The temperature's higher. The patience is thinner. The grace feels gone. And it feels like the world is on fire. Hence my sermon title. But here is where I need to pause with my doom and gloom, because Brooks is a white man and a baby boomer. His perspective is not the full perspective. And I say that not to dismiss him, but to locate him sociologically. Because for many in this country, especially black folks, people like me, people of color, people on the margins, America didn't just become hardened. It has always been hard on us. Some say, well, I was hoping he wouldn't preach that one again. Oh, boy. Okay, I need some encouragement now. All right. For some of us people of color, this toxic fire didn't just start. It's been blazing for years, repackaged and served over and over. And we people of color were born into it. And so when Brooks says things are getting worse, some of us say, well, welcome to the party. Welcome to what we've been trying to tell you. Welcome to what some of us have been living for hundreds of years. Now, hear me out. This is not a sermon about blame. I don't really do that. It's about awakening. Because what's new is not the suffering. What's new is who is noticing. And that matters. Because sometimes change doesn't begin when the oppressed cry out. It begins when the comfortable can no longer ignore the truth. So, yes, the world feels like it's on fire. But the deeper question is, what kind of fire is it? Is it a fire that destroys or a fire that reveals? Is it a cleansing fire or polluting fire? Maybe it's a little of both. But I do know, if you watch a farmer, some fire is necessary for rebirth. You got to burn those crops a little bit so that the new healthy crops can grow. Now, this is where Adler comes in. And he said something profound. Every psychological struggle involves how we relate to others. Better stated, all problems are interpersonal problems. All problems, at their root, are how we relate or don't relate to one another. Anxiety, that's fear of judgment from others in a lot of cases. Conflict, that's caused by maybe our control issues or a misunderstanding or miscommunication. Even our internal struggles are tied to how we see ourselves in relation to others. Or some people say, well, I just want to be alone. I don't want to be involved. Me, myself, and I. But underneath that isolation, maybe the fear of public rejection or judgment or not fitting in. It's still relational. Interpersonal relationships make us human. How we treat each other, how we value or devalue each other, that's the measure of our humanity. Racism, interpersonal. War, interpersonal. Family conflict, interpersonal. Church conflict, interpersonal. And Adler goes on even further. He says we like to tell ourselves life lies. We lie to ourselves often about what we don't really want to change. Well, I can't change. But what we mean is, I won't. We say, this is just the way I am. But what we mean, he says, don't blame me, he says. But what we mean is, I don't want to do the hard work of becoming someone new. Many politicians say, we don't have the money to fix these problems for the marginalized, for the poor folks. That's what they say. Adler would say, no, you don't want to fix it. You have the means, resources, and capacity, but you do not have the will. So where Freud focused on the past, your trauma, your mom and daddy issues, Adler agreed with some of that, but went in a different direction and said that until you let that go and focus on the present, you cannot build the kind of future that you want. He's quite profound. You need both. So, Adler would say that's why the world is the way it is. People creating the justifications for the outcomes they really desire or don't desire in their heart. And I like to say people do exactly what they want to do in life, for better or for worse. You see a neighborhood and the grass is all manicured and looks nice, that's because they want to. Now, another community wants to, but Others around them don't want them to. And people say, well, why is it like that? Because there's not enough people that are willing to help them do that. They don't have the resources. Many of them would want to. So Adler says we tell these life lies to ourselves. And I have had to sit with that, the life lies, the justifications, the fancy narratives that we create. We call that spin in politics. So I want to bring this back to David Brooks and put Adler together with him. Brooks says we have a moral crisis. Adler says all problems are relational. And what that means is this. We are not just dealing with broken systems, we are dealing with broken rationales, broken justifications, broken ways of being with one another. And we all participate in that brokenness, not just those people, not just those people in red or those folk. It's all of us, you and me, us, the United States, us, U.S. Interesting, our United States, anyway, that was my play on words. But so Adler is an advocate of personal responsibility, and historically, Unitarianism is the same. Ours is a faith that has been less about creeds and more about conscience and character, less about what we profess spiritually and more about who we are becoming spiritually, how we choose to live our lives and our values, being responsible for what we choose to believe in. It matters what we believe. And we believe that relationships are more powerful than always being right. No one likes a know-it-all. We believe that we have a moral responsibility to speak truth to power, to name and challenge the behaviors and beliefs that divide and fracture, because they inhibit the ability to create strong interpersonal relationships. And we believe that we must live in such a way that we allow interpersonal relationships to thrive. You know, it's always been tough for people of color, but it's been exponentially toxic right now because of bad behavior being given a license to drive us all to hell. I'm not on board with that. I like to say we need to get better drivers at the wheel, amen? We don't need backseat drivers. We need people willing to take the wheel. I can't stand a backseat driver. That's all talk and no action. We want all the problems to be them. And that is the case in many issues. But our religion, progressive, liberal religion, is guilty too. So what we're talking about is an internal and external spiritual transformation needed by all of us, what Dr. King named as a radical transformation of values. Stop telling ourselves life lies, being honest with ourselves, where we are in our process, our prejudices and our biases. It begins in the heart. And that's how we transform our interpersonal relationships. Amen. Now I want to take the gloves off. Because we love our country. We love the idea of what this country is. The pursuit of happiness. It is beautiful and noble. Yet many tell untrue stories about this country. Some say we are the greatest country in the world. But let's be honest. America is not the greatest country in the world in many measurable ways. Not education, not in health care, not in how we care for the poor, not in life expectancy. That's the data. It's not my opinion. We have a long way to be great. You think about the history of Europe and how old Europe is, they're like, adults looking at us as toddlers, or teenagers, and you can't tell a teenager nothing in most situations, you know what I mean? So, hey, look at that. Oh, Lord. I just can't wait for them to grow out of this. And just hope we don't blow the whole planet up in the process. But yes, there are worse places to live. I know that. And there are better places too. So we have to stop saying what is not really true. Life lies. Radical honesty about American history and the state of our nation is necessary. And right now, in so many places, we're a bad country. There's no other way to put it. So what does make America great? It's not perfection. It's not the grand city on the hill idea. It's not manifest destiny, that foolishness. It's not that we're a beacon of freedom and justice. Rather, it's the possibility of we, the people. It's the idea of America, that out of many, one. It's a great idea. No other idea like that in any other country has ever existed. People from different backgrounds, different races, different religions, different identities can come together and attempt to do something radical. Democracy. A government by the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. A multicultural experiment. That is a great idea. And friends, that idea, that people from different backgrounds, different races, different religions and identities can come together to build something larger, that's not just an American idea, but if you know your history, that is a Unitarian Universalist idea. That's our religion and our theology. And it is our calling. And as I've said a few times over several weeks, diversity is not a problem to solve. It is the very condition for which life can flourish. It is the very condition for life to flourish. De calores is not something to tolerate, not something to manage, but something to celebrate, something to protect, something to lean into because life itself depends on it. And if you're a scientist and you look at the stars and you know that there's a multicultural cosmos, that God is a multicultural God. And we believe in love at the center of our faith, which is possible when we hold pluralism as sacred, when we hold the worth and dignity of every person as a holy practice, when we work for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. That's our seventh principle, reminding us that we're interconnected and interrelated. And that, my friends, is Adlerian psychology, that we don't exist as individuals until we are in community and in communion with others in a healthy human relationship or relationships. And if we are not in right relationship, we're out of covenant and we are not fully human. So our faith has a blueprint for this nation and world. And yes, it's an idea like Julia Ward Howe's idea. But it's a powerful idea that we can make manifest through our thoughts, words, and deeds. I do not underestimate what a small group of people, 180,000 of us, have done historically to this nation, and in this period, I do not underestimate what we can do today. So, the world is on fire, oh yes. Don't panic. Proclaim our good news. Remember again and again who you are. Because fire in our tradition is not destruction, it's transformation. It's commitment, it's dedication to love and justice. Fire for us is a reminder that even in shadowy times, light persists. And so what is our hope? Our hope is not denial of what is happening. Our hope is not pretending that everything is fine or in saying it'll all work out. Our hope is our moral philosophy, our theology, our discipline, our courage, our choices we make every day, our acts of resistance. That's our hope. Not everything that is faced can be changed, Baldwin said, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Our hope is looking at ourselves and our life lies and saying, I'm going to be honest with myself. I'm not going to make excuses anymore. And I'm going to step in places I haven't stepped before. That's my invitation to you. If all problems are interpersonal problems, the work is clear. How are you showing up in your relationships? How are you choosing comfort over courage? Where are you telling yourself a story that keeps you from becoming who you are called to become? Oh, my dear friends, choose courage over comfort. Choose connection over division. Truth over illusion. Because hope is not something we wait for. Hope is something we become. Amen.